You know, I miss the days when games would come with 80-page manuals. That's what the Famicom version of Koei's Sangokushi II has. It's packed with historical information and biographical details. But that's the kind of thing that comes with a price. And Koei's Sangokushi II, not to be confused with Namco's Sangokushi II, was the most expensive Famicom game ever released. I don't mean it's expensive today, my boxed copy cost me a whole $3. But in 1990, it cost 14,800 yen. The only other games that are priced in that range come with enormous peripherals. If you wanted to play Sangokushi II on your Famicom, you really had to pay for it. Sangokushi is the Japanese title of the Chinese novel known in the West as Romance of the Three Kingdoms. It's a fictionalized recounting of the period in Chinese history when the Han Dynasty collapsed and a three-way civil war for control of the country broke out. Koei's Sangokushi games are computer strategy games that have the player step into the shoes of one leader in that time period and attempt to unify all of China. So far, every Koei strategy game released has been an improvement in terms of interface and design. But with Sangokushi II, I feel like Koei's strategy games have properly entered a second generation. There's still a lot of rough edges to the interface, like hitting left for yes and right for no, and how they require you to input numbers but you can enter numbers that are out of range. But there's some real improvements. Most importantly, an organized menu-driven interface for when you're managing your provinces. Instead of having a literally 30-item long text menu, now you have 8 categories and then submenus below them. And it defaults to the informational menu. There's also drop-down menus for managing your army, your officers, trading, infrastructure, diplomacy, espionage, and moving resources around your kingdom. There's still a lot of options here. They haven't really eliminated anything. It's just now you're not being overwhelmed by a giant menu. The general principles are still the same here. You get 1 turn a month for every province that you control. But a new aspect here is that all of your generals can be given different orders for the month. So if you have 8 generals hanging out in a province, you could do 8 different things with them. You probably don't want to do 8 different things with them, because having them team up to work on one project is good. But if you want to send everybody off to a separate diplomatic mission, you can. That's not a good idea though, because now people can imprison and execute the generals who go wandering off like that. Similarly, you can assign them command of up to 100 troops. When it's time to invade, you can only go to a neighboring province, and it has to be one occupied by a player. You can gain control of the blank provinces through events. You're really going to be expanding by attacking other players. When you invade, you have a single-screen hex map, and this is a place where there's very little change from previous Koei strategy games. One positive change that I like is that you can order all-out attacks where everybody surrounding a hex attacks. And if that hex is completely surrounded, then that means all of your forces attack 6 times that turn. You need that because it takes a long time to wear down a large fortified army. Another change on the battle maps is that units who move into forests can't be seen by your opponent or you. And the biggest change is the weather. The weather conditions affect how the battle goes, and in particular, they change how fire attacks spread. Don't start a fire when it's going to blow back toward you. Otherwise, you have to wait for the rain to start and put the fire out. Also, when you start a battle, an enemy general could demand a duel. Here you just choose someone who's good at combat and have them clash until one is dead. If you've invaded and defeat all of the enemy forces, then you take over that province. It goes to an administrative view, but you can't do anything on that turn. You have to wait until the next turn. And that's the basics of Sangokushi II. Of course, something with an 80-page manual means I can't really dig that deep into the systems. But I am seeing Koei strategy games become more and more playable. Sangokushi II actually gets a port to the Super Famicom, so there is a better console version of this exact game out there. Koei strategy games are never a good fit for my format. I just don't have enough time to really drill down into them. But in this case, I can say that Sangoku 2 is a step in the right direction for them. This is the last game in that series that's going to be released on the Famicom. Sangoku 3 gets released in 1992, but by that point Koei's exiting the Famicom, and they're only porting some of their older games to the system. I can't really say that if you're interested in the game series that this is a good one to start with. The sequels are just all around better. But that said, if you were playing these games on an 8-bit system in 1990, you would have been pretty happy with this one. Well, unless you spent 14,800 yen.